Hello everyone. Today we are going to share on the resurrection, Jesus risen from the dead. This is the climax or highlight of the whole liturgical year, and the highlight is the Resurrection Vigil, the Eucharist on Saturday night, the vigil, and it will go into the next day, Sunday, but usually they call it Holy Saturday, the Vigil. And the Gospel talks about, and behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven, approached and rolled back the stone, and sat upon it. And his appearance was like lightning, and his clothing was white as snow. So, like that. And the guards, we don't have the picture here, the guards were shaken with fear of him and became like dead men. Then the angel said to the women, Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, and another Mary, do not be afraid. I know that you are seeking Jesus of the crucified. He's not here, for he has been raised from the dead, just as he said. Then the angel called them to come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples he has been raised from the dead, and he is going before you to Galilee. Galilee, the place where Jesus would ascend into heaven. And Galilee, and there you will see him. Behold, I have told you. So the angel gave this message to the women. And then they went away quickly from the tomb, fearful, but very happy, very overjoyed. And they ran to announce this to his disciples. And behold, Jesus met them on their way and greeted them. They approached, embraced his feet, and did him homage. Then Jesus said to them, do not be afraid. Go tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and there they will see me. So Galilee again. So Galilee, the place where Jesus would rise into heaven, ascend into heaven. This is another gospel. We'll share on 4 different gospels today. Another gospel, and on the first day of the week, Mary of Magdala, or Mary Magdalene, came to the tomb early in the morning while it was still dark, and saw the stone removed from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other apostle whom Jesus loved, that would be John, and told them, they have taken the Lord from the tomb, and we don't know where they put him. So the empty tomb and Jesus crucified. So Peter and the other disciple went out to the tomb. They both ran, but John, the younger one, ran faster and arrived at the tomb first. he bent down and saw the burial clothes there, but he did not go in. He did not go in out of respect for Peter. And Peter came and arrived, and he went into the tomb and saw the burial cloths there. And so he entered first. Then John followed to go in. And he saw the burial clothes there and the cloth that had covered his head, not with the burial cloths, but rolled up in a separate place. Yeah, but we did not have the photo, of the picture of the cloth that covered Jesus' face. Then the other apostle also went in, and he saw and believed. So John went in, and he saw all of this, and then he believed that Jesus has risen from the dead. Why? Because on seeing that, it arose in his heart and mind of Jesus telling them already that he would rise from the dead. He now remembers and understands. But at first they did not yet understand the scripture that he had to rise from the dead. Rise from the dead. Notice dead. He would die and then rise. And Mary Magdalene, they ran back. They went away. Both disciples went away, but Mary still wants to stay at the tomb, and she was crying for Jesus. Then while she was crying, she noticed someone behind, and she thought he was the gardener. And so she turned towards him and saw Jesus standing there. But she did not realize it was Jesus. He asked her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." So she wanted to see his body, and if possible, to get back his body. Then Jesus said to her, "Mary," called her name, Mary, and she cried out, "Rabboni," teacher. That means when Jesus, the risen Jesus, calls her name, she recognized him as the risen Jesus. And then she cried out, "Teacher, Rabboni." Then Jesus told her, "Go to my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." So he was stressing his ascension into heaven later on. And Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, "I have seen the Lord." And she told them that he had said these things to her. So she was a witness to the risen Christ. She saw him, and she was most probably the first person to see him. And so she was the first witness. Then on the same day, this is another gospel sharing on Jesus' resurrection. And now on the same day, 2 disciples were going to a village called Emmaus. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them. Jesus appeared and talked with them. They did not recognize him yet. So it was very usual. At first, they did not recognize the risen Christ. And he said to them, "What are you discussing? What are you talking about?" Then they stopped and stood still, looking sad. The one called Cleopas asked him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place these days?" This is in the Gospel of St. John. And so here they were, and they still did not recognize him. And then Jesus asked them, "What things?" They said, you are the only one not to know what has happened. And they said, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned." There should be a C here, to death, and crucified him. So they were surprised by what Jesus said. So as they came near the village Emmaus, to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he was going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening." In fact, Jesus wanted to stay with them. And so he went in to stay with them. And during supper that night, the 2 disciples recognized the risen Christ. So while he was at table that night, he took bread, blessed and broke it, just like the Last Supper, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. So they recognized Jesus finally, and then he disappeared. So Jesus was appearing to them just to let them know he has risen from the dead, and to be witnesses. They said to each other, were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" So they had felt something special while Jesus was explaining the scriptures to them, so they would understand more. But they still did not recognize Jesus, but here they recognized him. So this would be the second witnesses, and so the witness is Christ is risen. So happy Easter, and happy Easter